Vanessa, can you tell me what the assignment was, what your intention was when you were doing the story about the anniversary of Tupac's murder? What did you
Yeah,
hope to
this
find
was
out?
for the 20th anniversary of his death. So we tried to find people who may have been witnesses. We tried to talk to Metro Police about it, right? Because this was their case. It was on the Las Vegas Strip. It wasn't easy to find people who would actually talk. We did find the paramedics who helped Tupac Shakur on the scene immediately after he was shot. They had never done an interview before. They're both now firefighters in the city of Henderson, a suburb near Las Vegas, right? So they finally talked to us. It was interesting though, they did not want to use their last names because of the nature of all this, because it is still an unsolved case. And because there is still so much interest in it. They've moved on. They talked about the experience. They shared the experience. But again, they were a little wary.
Even now, you could do a Google search on Tupac, and there are all these stories about him being alive. He's living with the Navajo. He's living somewhere else. I mean, there are people who are just not willing to accept that he really was murdered. Was that part of what you were trying to dig into, to find the people who were there who could confirm that he really was dead?
Um, well, I mean, it was part of our research, but we came to the conclusion that this did happen. Tupac Shakur is not alive. He is a legend. He was known throughout the world as a hip hop artist, a rapper, even an actor. So yeah, some people might want to hold on and believe that he is still here. But again, we came to the conclusion that no, he is dead. And, you know, I mean, if he wasn't, a lot of people would have to be part of a cover up, right? The paramedics I interviewed would have to be part of it. University Medical Center, the medical staff would have to be part of it. Maybe even the police would have to be part of it. That didn't happen. Tupac Shakur died.
The two guys you interviewed, the emergency responders, one of them didn't know who Tupac was, right?
Right. So, well, actually, they both were a little confused. One of them said at the scene, people were yelling, Tupac, Tupac. And he said, oh, well, this guy must have the same nickname as that rapper. And then one of the Metro police officers leaned over and said, no, this is Tupac Shakur. The other one had no clue. He said he listened to country music, so he wouldn't be listening to Tupac's music. He didn't know for quite some time, and then he later learned, I believe it might have been at the hospital, no, this was Tupac Shakur.
As part of the story, you not only talked to them, dug through all the video files of what it was like on the scene that night. It must have been chaotic, as you describe in your.
Yeah, they just happened, the paramedics happened to be in the area and then they saw this scene. They said on fight nights, there usually would be some trouble, there usually would be some fights. So they were in that area just in case, and then the police sort of waved them in. And then they realized this was much more than just a fight, right? So that's how they became part of it. And I do think it's interesting. So this was more than 20 years ago, right? It's not that long ago, but think about if this happened now, there would be so much cell phone video, right? Everyone would whip out their cell phones. There would be security video. The Las Vegas Strip right now is covered in cameras. We've done stories on it, cameras from the casinos and also cameras from police. At that point, no video is what we heard.
So you talked to the paramedic guys, and you also talked to other people at the hospital, at UMC, emergency room personnel. Your photographer, Bill, had also talked to some of those folks. You were trying to find out and confirm what Tupac's last words were. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe a physician says he heard his last words. He did not share them with me, right? Because it could technically be a HIPAA violation. But yes, I believe that medical staff was there as he passed away.
Why were people so reluctant to talk about it? Just because it's an open case, or were they concerned that it might attract unwanted attention to them, maybe even danger?
I think it was a little bit of both. Again, it's unsolved. There are all these theories and, theories of, who killed Tupac Shakur? How did it happen? Why did it happen? Are the people involved still here with us? So yeah, there was some reluctance to talk about it.
And do you know, is Metro still actively working it? I mean, officially it'd be considered a cold case, but did they solicit input? Are they still looking into it?
So it's an open case, right? Because it's an unsolved murder. But I don't think this is something that detectives are working on right this minute, today, or every day, or even every week. I think it's the type of thing with most cold cases. They're willing to work on it if they get more information. If they get a tip, they are going to look into it. And that's one of the reasons, because it's an open case. We can't exactly get those police records to find out exactly who they talked to. But I know that, you know, uh, some people aren't happy that this is an unsolved murder. And there is the concern that the police didn't take this seriously. If you talk to police, what they will tell you is that people didn't cooperate with them. Witnesses or people who may have been involved didn't want to talk to the police. So it's two different stories.
I guess it's kind of like Elvis, Jesse James, Michael Jackson. People don't want to see their heroes or icons die. And I imagine that regardless of your excellent reporting, the people will still want to believe he's alive somewhere.
I agree. I agree, George.
What was your sense of how much effort the police put into it? I know there was criticism back then, as there is now. Maybe they don't really care about who did this crime, that they didn't dig into it and took it seriously. My sense of it was they did take it seriously because it was such a high profile case. What do you think?
Yeah, Metro Police will tell you they took it seriously and they're going to take any murder seriously. On the other hand, there are some people who believe that police may not have taken it seriously because perhaps they thought this was black on black crime and it wasn't a priority for police. But again, detectives will tell you that people who may have been involved or who may have been of help, witnesses just didn't want to cooperate with them.
And of course, at this point, a lot of the people who may or may not have been involved are dead. There were subsequent murders that took place, and it's still a tough nut to crack here.
Right, and there's Orlando Anderson, right, of the Crips. He was a member of the Crips. He was in that scuffle inside the casino for that fight, the fight that Tupac Shakur was involved in. Suge Knight, they saw him, they fought with him, and one of the theories is, well, did he upset the Crips too much? Did they get together and retaliate for that fight? But that is just one of the theories, but Orlando Anderson is no longer living.
In subsequent years, we saw some LAPD cops who had worked the case from that angle had suggested that Sean Puffy Combs may have had something to do with it, that there was a bounty put out on Tupac by Combs. Did you ever hear that from any Metro investigators? Did they look at that, or do you know?
That is not something Metro Police revealed to us. They were still pretty tight-lipped about the case, just saying it's an open investigation, and if they get a tip, they'll look into it. But that is one of the theories, that this was a Bad Boy Records versus Death Row Records beef. Again, that's just one of the many theories.
Well, Notorious B.I.G., 6 months later, a lot of folks make that connection between the two crimes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
There's even the theory, George, that Suge Knight had something to do with it because he did owe Tupac Shakur money, right, from the record deal, right? So there is that theory. But then others say, who would set up someone while they're in the car that's going to get fired at? So again, numerous theories about this, and it is unsolved. Again, if police get a tip, they will look into it.